Everyone.
Yeah, can you speak a little louder, Meghna?
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So, hi everyone and good evening. I welcome you all for today's session on psychological resilience in the age of uncertainty. So, my name is Meghna Deshpande and I am the psychologist at Swasti Vishwa Institute Foundation. Our institute is a Section 8 non-profit company which was started with a vision and mission to provide affordable mental health services, professional and continuing education, training, and consulting services to transform individuals, organizations, and communities. Over the last 5 years, since it has started, we have trained more than 8,000 individuals across various domains. As a part of our mission, we also conduct psychoeducation program, webinars, seminars, and lectures as outreach programs for our mental health and well-being. And today's session is also a part of it. So, you all must have seen the topic name, that is the psychological resilience in the age of uncertainty. So, we are all living in a time of relentless change, basically on the global level, national, also on the local events that are unfolding simultaneously, whether it is in economic, political, social, or cultural domains. So, you're seeing that there are daily shifts happening and there are rapid advances in AI, which are also going on simultaneously. So the speed at which the information reaches us and the pressure to constantly respond has intensified, often due to the news overload, reassurance, seeking validation, and most importantly, the doom scrolling that gives a lot of strain both on the physical as well as the mental health. So in this environment, resilience is no longer a fixed trait. It is a dynamic capability, the capacity to adapt, stay grounded, and move forward with clarity despite uncertainty, disruption, and emotional pressure. So, we are privileged to have three distinguished voices with us today who would be sharing their own experience and will be enlightening us on this topic. So, I welcome all the three panelists. I'll introduce each one of them. Today with us, Dr. Harpreet Bhatia. Ma'am, if you could pin as well, that would be great. So, welcome, Dr. Harpreet Bhatia. So, first of all, she is the clinical psychologist and professor at Keshav Mahavidyalaya, Delhi University. And she has extensive experience working with adults, adolescents, and students facing a range of psychological concerns. So, she's currently working at the University of Delhi, where she has been teaching abnormal psychology, stress management, and emotional intelligence for about 14 years. She's also trained in cognitive behavior therapy from Beck Institute and Swasti Vishwa Institute. And she specializes in evidence-based interventions for anxiety, depression, OCD, personality disorders. So today she will be talking about the emotional and the psychological perspective in the terms of uncertainty. So welcome, Dr. Bhatia.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dr. Dhruv Thakkar, who is a gold medalist and has completed MD psychiatry in psychology with over a decade of experience in the field of mental health. He specializes in psychotherapy, de-addiction, and holistic mental health care, integrating evidence-based approaches such as cognitive behavior therapy with a patient-centered approach. In addition to his clinical practice, Dr. Thakkar is actively involved in mental health awareness initiatives, and he also conducts workshops, webinars, and corporate training programs to promote psychological well-being and emotional resilience. So today he will be bringing the clinical and neurobiological insights into how uncertainty and overload affects the brain and body. So welcome, Dr. Dhruv Thakkar.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And lastly, we have Mr. Pralhada Rao, who is a seasoned industry leader with over 3 decades of extensive experience across the automotive, services, and tire industries. Over the course of his distinguished career, he has held key leadership and contributed significantly to business growth, operational excellence, and people development. With deep expertise in managing diverse teams and navigating organizational challenges, He brings a wealth of practical knowledge and strategic insight, making him a highly respected professional and an invaluable contributor to discussion, workplace well-being, and professional growth. So he will be talking about the corporate side on this topic. So welcome, Pralhada, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And panel will be moderated by Dr. Swati Karve, who is the director of our institute, which is Swasthi Vishwa Behavioral and Social Sciences Foundation. She has more than 3 decades of experience as a mental health professional, faculty of psychology in India and the USA, and has experience in leadership development and behavioral training in corporate, along with OD consulting. Also the professor of practice and DES Pune University. So welcome, ma'am, and I request you to begin with the panel discussion.
Hey, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, Meghna, thank you so much for the introductions. I will also request you to, just before we start, to make Tanishka and Amruta also co-hosts so they can manage the chat and admit people in and so on, and help out. So these are our associates, our interns, they've all joined here. Thank you all the panelists, Dr. Dhruv, Harpreet, Pralhad, for accepting this invitation to share your perspectives. And without any further delay, let me just start as a context setting. Meghna has already given the context, but then to set a broader context here in terms of the topic, this is an open question for all the three of you. You can take a couple of minutes to answer this. What is your definition of, say, uncertainty or resilience? Has the meaning of resilience changed in the last decade? What is your perspective on this topic itself? So a couple of minutes, like a context setting from each one of you. So Dr. Dhruv, you're on mute.
Okay.
Yes.
So whenever we talk about resilience, especially from the lens of uncertainty, there are a few things that come to my mind. So first, how I define resilience is the ability to bounce back after we have suffered some setback of our life, right? So in the beginning of the talk only, I want to uh, focus on this part of the definition, which says that resilience by definition doesn't mean the endurance or the mental toughness. Resilience means the ability to bounce back. And many times when we talk about mental toughness, we forget this aspect a lot, that it is okay to be affected, it is okay to break down sometimes. But it is also necessary to focus on the specific skill sets which are required to bounce back from that. So that is what I mean by resilience. And well, the part of uncertainty that I can talk about from my domain of biology is that our brain is very hardwired for survival. And for survival, we are also hardwired for predictability. So, how much we are constantly forecasting. The predictability is a very foundational for survival. So, any uncertainty in any of the areas of our life where our identity is attached, it it feels like a threat. We may like smaller surprises in our life, but when it comes to our identity, it feels like a threat and not a pleasurable surprise. So that is how uncertainty can play a major role in the stress that we perceive in everyday life in different domains of your life. So that's my submission.
So what I take away is uncertainty is unpredictability. We are not wired for unpredictability. We look for predictable patterns. And the resilience is not the actual toughness, but it's the ability of a person to bounce back from setbacks. So thank you for that context setting. Dr. Harpreet, your interpretation of the topic itself?
Yes, I agree with now what Dr. Dhruv has said, because we as human beings are not very comfortable when things change. We want the things to follow a particular pattern, and whenever that pattern gets disrupted in any way, it causes us anxiety. It tells us that things are not okay. And that's the time when that kind of a feeling that occurs, that is when the person starts, looking at options on how to deal with that particular situation. And a person who is able to deal with it, come out of it, and maybe even benefit out of it because they have been able to resolve the situation well, that we would refer to as resilience. So basically, a person who's resilient is, if you give a very basic example, if it's like a rubber band. If you stretch it, at that particular point of time when the person it's stretched, but then the person comes back, the rubber band comes back to its original shape. So that is the homeostasis that the person achieves once the uncertain, the difficult situation has passed, and whoever is able to come back to the space without breaking is what we would refer to as a person who's resilient. That would be my understanding of it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Harpreet, for that perspective. You also brought that positivity in that milieu of change, because not every time everything is negative. So some people may benefit from the change. So that was
So,
a perspective as well. And Prahlad, what is your perspective? It's slightly different because we are going to focus on organizations. One of the reasons we had this as a topic is because in our personal lives, our work life, personal life, social life, these are most important domains of our life. And uncertainty is in all three domains. So what is your perspective in terms of the organizations and what's happening with the employees?
Yeah, so unlike the other two panelists who are very precise and who know what happens to the human mind, I am not coming from that context, but I'm coming from what organizations do. So as I was introduced that I'm talking about a wide array of industries, from industries of nature of automotive to hugely competitive services industry, IT services industry in the country, as well as lastly, I right now work for a tire company. So it's kind of a broad brush on types of industries that which we are talking about. And in that, I would also think about, let's say, some three different types or levels of things that we will think through. One is at the organization or industry level itself. What is happening? What is the change that is happening? The second one is that when that change happened, what happens to the organization in terms of its execution? How do you execute this change? And then also kind of flip it to the leadership which is leading this change. What is it that people do in this context? So my view is that as earlier Dr. Dhruv as well as Harpreet were saying, it's at the change that the mind is kind of bothered or anchored. But if you look at from the perspective that I'm talking about, it is all about change. There's so much of change that is happening. There is so much of difference of how individuals used to enter organizations to what is happening today. That whole paradigm has changed. So some of us who have been in the organizations for quite a bit of time, unemployment was something that guaranteed many things to happen in the organization. Today, your uncertainty is that you walk in and that's the day that that is happening. You don't even know the next day. So it is that magnitude of change that is there in front of you. We can talk about more technology, AI, etc. later as we go by. I want to just flip around to just say one aspect, which is that bounce back aspect. I also want to bring in organizations. There is some form of linearity. They would think that it will grow in a particular way. I am saying organizational resistance is also resilience is also about whether it grows too fast or too slow, and how does one adapt to that. Both the ways. I think growing too fast also creates certain kind of issues in the mind. I think so. We will have to think through on both sides, not just on the time that it is not that it is doing what we intended it to do. And I would also kind of see how during the conversation we can look at an opportunity centric thinking than a cost centric thinking. How do organization benefit from that? That's where I am coming from.
Okay, so that's a very broad perspective on this whole topic. When we look at organizations, of course, the uncertainties related directly to change, and it's really the ability of the organizations to navigate through this change, making sure they are bouncing back, the speed of change, the rate of change, and all this somewhere it is coming back to the employees, to leadership, to management, and the behaviors which are happening in the workplace, and how it is also causing stress or opportunities for all these individuals who are entering the workforce or who are already in the workforce at all levels. So with that context set, let's move to the next question or the next segment, which really deals with the problems of uncertainty itself. So, Dr. Dhruv, this question is for you that in your experience in today's constant connectivity, there is the AI, there's information overload, there's all kinds of things, changes happening at the same time, and this constant, need for being in the loop and whatever's happening to all of us collectively as well. How is this affecting people's physical and mental health and resilience? That's the first part of the question. And the second part I'll just ask right here is that how does it affect different populations in different ways? So, for example, it could be affecting young adults and professionals or older adults. So, what's your experience dealing with the mental and physical health of people?
Okay. So I'll try to remember all the parts of the questions and answer those questions like that. So first thing that you mentioned is constant connectivity, and that is, in my eyes, a problem in a way that, see, our brain is not wired for anything constant. So there is something called allostatic load. That means whatever we keep doing, there is some wear and tear happens associated with that, and so we need a time for rest and recover, right? Even if we are working out, so we cannot constantly work out and keep ourselves stronger and stronger, right? We have to rest, and when we rest we recover. So this constant um, being hooked to the technology or even connectivity is not as healthy as we think. And we also see that this connectivity is not black or white, right? So that means it's not that we are either connected or disconnected. A lot of the connectivity we see these days is not deep enough. It's not heart to heart. I mean, commenting under somebody's picture is not connecting to them. uh, the oxytocin, the bonding hormone that we feel, right, the depth of the connection that we feel when we are sitting with somebody, looking in their eyes and talking our hearts out, is a different level of connection than just commenting on their vacation pictures. So to what degree are we connected, to what depth are we connected, is very important. And see, connectedness has its perks as well, because it these are the pillars of our strength, right? We recover better, we are more resilient when we have company, but this company has to make us feel safer. If this is a close company which provides that stage for us where we can actually vent out or open our hearts, and we also get to learn, and in all of this setup, if we are feeling safe, then even if they are not actively contributing to our resilience, our brain in that zone of safety recovers way better. And there are a lot of case papers. I'll give you a very interesting example of the positive side of the connection, that there was a test where some subjects were given minor electric shocks, okay, and their stress levels were measured. On the other hand, there were a group of subjects who were asked to hold the hands of their loved ones, and then they were given electric shocks, and then their stress levels were measured, and there was huge difference, as we can guess, right? It's not rocket science. So connectedness is that, okay, that sense of warmth and connectedness, versus the current state of constant connectivity is is either not that deep enough, because we do not get that much time and space to really connect with people, or sometimes it is very outcome driven or very transactional in nature, right? It is happening for certain outcome. So that is how I'm seeing the shift. Of course we cannot overgeneralize, but then this is what I see, right? And the second part of the question is AI driven change or the constant change. That is also a problem because, see, uncertainty was always there in the previous generations as well. But then it was slow and we had a lot of time to recover. Also, we were not exposed to every change. If
Hmm.
Iran and US is fighting, or if NEET exam uncertainty is going on, not everybody was feeling affected. Right now, we are feeling affected by every change. Something happens in a distant country, we feel affected by the change. And it is so constant, we do not have the time to absorb it. We do not have that pause, a silence, or the recovery phase from that. So that is also a problem, that a constant change, that is a problem number one. The experience that, oh, everything is changing
Hmm.
because of this connectivity and because of this being a global citizen with constant um, internet connection, right? So that is how we feel we do not get the time to process it, to absorb it. And the third part of it is there is a real uncertainty that any major technological shift brings. It happened when we got calculators, it happened when we got computers. But then when we got computers, it was a big shift, but then we got the time to digest it, right? It was not constantly, or Windows was not updating every day. Right now AI models are updating every day, so we do not get that enough time to absorb it. And third thing, unpredictability. We do not know where this leads, right? So you talked about different populations. If I see younger adults, the youngest ones, um, who have who are just in a state where their identity is forming, their interests are forming, their career choices are forming, they are very confused. It's a chaos there if we talk about them, and they do not know what profession to choose, right? The kids as young as 10 and 11 are coming to us with their parents, and they're asking us that, sir, he's worried about what profession to choose because we do not know where AI is going to lead. So we are not able to come to the conclusion whether we teach them music or coding or sports or what. So as long as early as that, so there are very popular questions that were circulating on Reddit and all that, that my kid is 7 years old, which coaching is better for him? And so
Wow.
that comes to my mind, that this whole idea that we are bogged down by uncertainty is so widespread. So that is for young people and for older generations as well. They are so worried because they do not get understanding of this new technology. They cannot book, they were not being able to book their Uber, and suddenly we are having AI.
Hmm.
And now they are like, oh, how will we keep up with this? Do we? So that is also a sense of uncertainty and survival threat, which is not very real, but it's perceived, right? And they are already in the stage of crisis where their kids are leaving the houses, and they are having that empty nest syndrome, where middle age crisis or late age crisis happening, right? Nuclear families are happening, and the life of the kids is so fast, they do not get a hold of their kid till midnight. So they're already trying to understand the change, and then this AI is bringing it. And the middle-aged professionals, I think Prahlad sir will be able to give us better perspective on that. That this sword on their head, that anytime they can lose their job, and anytime the whole idea of their work will get changed. Suddenly, next day they'll get an email that the nature of the work is going to transform, and our brains cannot change as fast as the technology can change. Or neuroplasticity, or the ability to change our neurons, is not as fast as updating our softwares of the computers, right? So I think every generation has their own way, their own perspective of how this AI and uncertainty and connectivity is affecting them. And with this different perspective, we will also have to come up with different solutions as mental health professionals, as corporate leaders, as psychology teachers, and all that. Now we collectively have to come up with solutions, because those who are affected are not in a state where they can really find the solutions, right? So we together collaboratively have to come up with solutions and offer them.
Wow. That was Very, very precise, very deep. And I think you covered the context of this change and what exactly it's doing, why we are in this constant state of apprehension. I think that
Yeah.
was really captured very well.
Thank you.
And, you also said how it's affecting those different populations. I think here, because you already mentioned organizations, I think I will ask Mr. Prahlad this question about what's happening to the employees, what is happening to the industry leaders. Like, how are you seeing this problem translating into leadership and employee behaviors, and how is it affecting employee stress?
Yeah. So I think let me zoom
Just
out.
1 minute. Sorry to interrupt. I do see a comment from Dr. Rajeshri, who says that in today's era, we are losing the connectedness, which Dr. Dhruv mentioned, and wear and tear is more frequent, which is absolutely right. I also would like to request participants to enter their comments in the chat, ask the questions in the chat, and our interns are also monitoring the chat for specific questions. Sorry about the interruption, Mr. Prahlad. Please go ahead.
No problem, Swati. So my organizational view on this is that this why is it happening is one chapter that we may debate later. What happens because of this? I want to talk about the impact for a minute. Which is usually what happens is new systems are born, new organizational way of doing things is done, and it also results in the services industry a set of new offerings. A company will offer another set of solutions to the customers, and at a more fundamental level, new paradigms are being born. How do you do business itself is being recreated. Okay. So in all the three things, what I see is that I want to take an example of one of my good friends and colleagues. In my earlier organizations, he had to shift to another organization, and coming from a particular thinking process and what he believed are the values. When he joined the other company, he has started thinking that what in his mind that he was good at and what values that he cherished is different in this place. So then he has this struggle of this change has happened, and I'm now not talking about anything to do with the AI and other things, just people shifting from one organization to the other. He's in his mind stuck with I used to think like this is what I was good at. Why is it that this I'm unable to accept? So my first point to him is that organizations are not very rigid structures, or in your mind to think about what values you think as a professional is also not very rigid. Therefore, how is it that you can build that ability to be adaptable to what is it that is posed in front of you? To my mind, is the key professional thought to which I want to enter this subject. Because if you have the adaptability, then you can kind of think through what is that which is there and what is being posed in front of you instead of being a very fixed thinking person. Now, what is happening in the organizations is that I would kind of think about three types of employees, or a bunch of people. One who are already adaptable and who can deal with adaptation. And of course, if you go by Dr. Dhruv's earlier commentary, that it is not that we are wired, but we can learn that trick of getting to being in that space of being always constantly adapting. The second category is one of those which are, more of stability. I don't want to just kind of flip it and then say they are not adaptable, but they believe in some type of stability, constancy. They'll come to the organization, do their work and then go back. And there are other, bunch of guys who are more the following guys, who will always seek, advice from a bunch of other people. And typically they kind of get to the least common denominator where not too many things will be changed by them. They'll think that you enter the organization, everything is fine, and I need to do only a few things here and there, and that's how my whole career is going to be. So what we are talking of change is actually going to hugely impact the third category in the first place. And if anybody is in that mind of saying that I'm just going to enter, and I overheard a conversation some time back where two seniors are advising a junior to say that if you're entering a manufacturing setup, don't worry too much, because manufacturing is just about reporting things. You send a mail from here to there and that's all is manufacturing. So that's where my whole issue is that you can't get to people who will advise you in that manner, which says that, life is so simple of just pushing emails here and there. And you got to think about reskilling, learning, and being flexible. And this learning earlier, we all know our parents and other generations who went to organizations. They did learn, but the life was far more stabler. You got to learn now every day, whether it is AI or whatever that, earlier was commented on, including booking a Uber. That type of learning is, something that you need to be at on a constant basis. And it affects the people. I would not take any age as a parameter. I would rather like to take your mind as the parameter as to how adaptable, are you willing to look at it? It might not be you're a master of technology, but technology is a bit of how you can manage. It is not one that you cannot manage, but at least in your mind, you should not be afraid of entering the technology. So this is where the new age employees have to kind of think through. And the other thing which earlier commentary has also had I think a huge impact is this intermediate, work from home and other things, right? So in a way, from being exposed to a constant, situation in the workplace, you suddenly got in a way isolated to being in your house rooms, and for whatever reason, and then you were unable to kind of relate to the reality there, which again, now people are being pushed to, and then you don't want to experience this because you have found some form of comfort, as if like the comfort of the caves, so I think if you have gone into that mode, now to get out and then come into a space where you are constantly expected to look at opportunities, which is making your mind more adaptable, flexible, is a huge thing that the employees have to deal with. And the moment you are not dealing with it, it's creating stress. And by whatever earlier definition, if I go and understand, my psychology friends, by nature we are not wired to do that. So we want something that is more stable. I am not sure though. And in a way, I want to just push this discussion and pose this to my panelists too. I don't know, whatever, 20,000 years back, you never knew what was your next meal was, right? So, but you still dealt with it at that day. Why and when did we get into being so stable and so structured and so, being driven by, one set of paradigm? Is something that I sometimes reflect on, to say that no, your mind is capable of that, what elasticity or some other word which was used in the past, to go back to saying that no, I can bounce back. I know how to deal with it because every day I have to fight for my food. That's where I think the employees' view should be to the organizations.
Wow. Wow. That is quite insightful. You spoke about the challenges, how they are translating into the workplace. You spoke about how it's affecting different employees in different ways. And one of the important qualities is adaptability and that agility. I think, the mental, that attitude. So there were these three things that I took away from your comments right now. And I think this really dovetails very well into what Harpreet can talk about is, what are those coping strategies? Because Dr. Dhruv mentioned it, Mr. Pralhad also touched upon it. So what are people doing about this? And we are hearing about people wanting to constantly see the news, that doom scrolling, which is like wanting to
Yeah.
also somewhere listen to this negative news. And in this entire environment of uncertainty, like Prahlad said, it's not that people are not capable. So who is capable of doing it, and who is affected by it? Who is that who's vulnerable to this uncertainty? So, Dr.
Uh,
Harpreet.
Actually, one thing that I would like to say, that earlier the understanding of resilience was that it is a personality trait. The person is born with a trait, and the person who's resilient is born resilient and too bad for the others. But that is no longer the view. It is, at present, we do understand that it is something that the person can learn, can acquire, can enhance. You may be born with the trait of resilience and you can enhance it, or you may not be born with that trait of resilience, but you can acquire it, learn and over a period of time and learn to be adaptable. And that's a skill. So it now has shifted from the outlook that it is a personality trait to a skill that can be acquired. So there are, yes, there are a lot of things that people are doing right now, which is causing them greater anxiety, like doom scrolling and all. And somehow, even if you see from the first chapter of positive psychology, it says psychology has always looked at the negatives. We as human beings tend to look at the negatives more easily than we look at the positives. And that was the reason why the entire shift was there to positive psychology, that we are only talking about illness, we are not talking about, wellness. And now they have also said resilience is related to mental well-being also. That, and it's an interactive thing. Like a person with good mental well-being would have good resilience, and a person with good resilience will have good mental well-being. So these aspects are very important to remember, because otherwise we will tend to look at human beings in a very, very negative way. And they are that, yes, they do doom scrolling, because the times are such that there is so much of the information which is coming, which can cause a lot of anxiety. And people are getting anxious. There is no doubt about it. There is overall there is problems with economy. There is problem with the careers. People are wondering whether they'll have their career tomorrow or not. What is the selection? What is the choice that they have? Are they going to be shown the door, that the next week when they go to their job? So a lot of anxiety related to a lot of things. Even like already has been mentioned, parents are having a lot of issues about what their child is going to do. But I think it's important for us to remember that the jobs will be there, definitely, but maybe the skill sets required would be different. So you may not be working with the, with the hammer and the nails, but you would require a new set of skills, which will probably, instead of using your hands, you would need to use your brains. And but the job will be there. People are required to do various jobs. So thinking about that aspect, there was one research which we had done in college. I was teaching this paper on psychology of media, and we had done this research in which we said that the younger generation will be using more of social platforms and AI as compared to their parents. And to our shocking surprise, we found the difference to be not significant at all between the children and the parents. And we were absolutely surprised and taken aback, because our hypothesis said that there would be a significant difference between the two. And we didn't know how to explain this now. So now then we went through the literature again, trying to look for material, and we realized that the difference was not significant, because the parents are equally new to it as the younger generation. So the curiosity for the parents was as high. So they were spending as much time on social media and other things than AI. So, well, that can be looked upon as both positive and negative. That tells us that people are willing to learn new things. There is curiosity. They want to learn. So maybe if we give them the right ways in which they can learn, we don't make it into a big dragon which cannot be surmounted, then it's an issue, definitely, no doubt about it. Everything becomes scary, everything becomes unsurmountable. How will we learn these skills? But at the same time, they were willing to do it for social media. They have learned all the ways of dealing with social media, having different platforms. So it just shows that people are adaptable. We just need to show them the way in which to do it. So probably that answers, I think, a lot of the questions about person's adaptability. I think people are adaptable when they need to or want to. And that is a positive aspect about human beings, that yes, we get scared very easily, but then we learn to adapt also. And that's one thing which I found in my experience. But yes, there are people are using negative ways of dealing with it also, like doom scrolling, like venting negative aspects to such an extent that they just keep thinking about it, ruminating about these issues. Constantly, it is on their head and they on their minds, and they are wondering, what will happen next. But a lot of times, I have also found that when I'm doing like career counseling, and the parent comes and says to me, he's confused. He doesn't know what he wants. I said, no, he's not confused. He is confused because you're not agreeing to what he wants to do.
Mhm.
Because he is very clear in his mind what he wants. But it is your saying कि नहीं नहीं ये नहीं हो सकता, that is confusing him. So it's very important for us to realize that the younger generation does know what they want from their lives, and we just need to give them that direction, that way, that nudge to go in the right direction. So that is important. And that will also help in dealing with all the negative aspects, like all these ruminating, going into anxiety and depression, substance abuse many times. So all these aspects can be taken care of if the whole thing is given a more positive perspective, is my opinion. That's what I feel.
Excellent. So, Dr. Harpreet, that was such a comprehensive answer, and I think you gave us all those maladaptive coping mechanisms that we say in psychology, which are all those negative behaviors, which is like ruminating and getting into that negative loop, constantly doom scrolling, wanting to be in the loop all the time, not resting.
Right.
You also spoke about how this resilience can be built, and learning is one of the important strategies that I think everybody irrespective of the age group or population or wherever you are, I think this is very, very important. So
A good support system is very
absolutely
important. Good family relationships, good teacher student
right.
relationships, of supportive community. These are important aspects.
Absolutely. And there are some very interesting comments. Ravindra has said that it's extremely difficult to advise youngsters on what should be their choice of action because uncertainty is high. And yes, we see a lot of cases in career counseling who we have to counsel the parents as well. Rajashri says glass of water half full and half empty. Yes, there's opportunity. There's also that pessimism is there, but there is this optimistic and you brought out that optimism where the older generation also is in the loop. I remember many years ago when Facebook or whatever started, our son was the first one to have that, and we went and started an account because we wanted to know what exactly this thing was. So parents are following their kids and learning from them. There's a lot of reverse
Right.
coaching which is happening in the organizations also, where your senior managers are learning from their younger employees.
And
And
now Facebook is used more by the older generation than the younger
absolutely, that's the new
Absolutely.
study. Yes,
That's
yes,
true.
absolutely.
That's
And
true.
and Sanjay says, while tech and AI is an issue, at the end of the day, it is a tool, which is true. The thing all of us are struggling right now is how to use it, and how to use it properly, ethically. There are issues about AI itself. Jagdeep says, what doesn't break me makes me stronger is the new attitude to adopt. And Harpreet, you spoke about attitude. One thing that I took away from you, Harpreet, was one is the negativity of all this. But then if we look at the whole issue in the lens of positive psychology, then we start looking at how can we come out of this anxiety? How do we help people come out of it? Together, how do we do it? So with that in mind, Dr. Dhruv, just a little perspective on the connectedness or what can we do as a community?
Mhm. Right. So I love how we are now shifting from the problem statement to the solutions, and there is really a lot that we can talk about it. And I love how Prahlad sir mentioned about that we should not be worried about it, and we should learn more about it. And we are actually very adaptable. Our brain is actually very neuroplastic, and how Madam Harpreet ji also mentioned about the coping mechanisms. So I also, before we go into connectedness, I also want to highlight a bit on The solution part of resilience is that it's a learnable skill. As Harpreet said, that it is not a fixed trait; it's a learnable skill, and that I think that has to be the biggest takeaway. That no matter how much we discussed about the problem, resilience is a learnable skill, and I think what bigger catalyst than challenge for growth, right? I think challenge is the biggest catalyst for the growth, and what we are facing is a challenge, and we that is how we have grown as a species as well. So we have immense capacity to grow, to learn, to adapt, and to overcome things. So resilience as a learnable skill. First thing is that we should actively identify what are the techniques for resilience. As it is a learnable skill, how do we learn it? We have to identify, we have to find ways to learn it. And because this problem is as old as our species is, we have, through a lot of experiences of generations and research, we have identified ways to be resilient. So we should put an active effort to find out what are the ways of being resilient and what are the ways we can uh, get the best out of this challenge. One of that, as the question that you have asked me, is connectedness. And as I mentioned in my previous answer, how connectedness is seen as one of the biggest factors for bearing with the stress. And we have also identified through research that whenever we feel lonely, we can actually find inflammatory states of brain, right? So it's not just a social problem or psychological problem, it is also a biological problem. When we feel lonely, we biologically are in a bad state, it's as if we are ill. So connectedness is very important, it brings out a lot of things. So very interestingly, it has also been found that the way we get infected of the bacteria and virus, we can also get infected of people and their states of emotions. So if we are in the group of calm people, we almost get infected by the calmness of them, right? If we go and meet people who are talking about growth in the uncertainty versus we spend time in the pessimistic people, we get infected by. So we are like an average of five people we are surrounded by, right? And it's one of my favorite quotes. So we have to actively look for people who are either growth minded, or they are into calmness, or they're into fitness, or they're into spirituality or growth or whatever, right? Where we get to learn, we get to adapt, and simply by being infected by them, we can take our life to another level. So knowing that, in my clinical practice, what I found is we all know this, but very, very few people put an active effort into finding such people, right? Do we really have those five people in our life that we want to be an average of, right? If we are lucky enough, we get it passively. But if we do not have them, we have to actively find at least one or two organizations that we feel that we can relate to and we can be a part of, or those five people. And then that sense of belongingness, connectedness changes oxytocin, serotonin, and all that biologically as well, right? So I think that is the takeaway that we can take from this discussion: active efforts to find such people and communities.
And what a wonderful perspective, Dr. Dhruv. In psychology, we always have the biopsychosocial model to explain anything. And while you explained the biology behind even social connections,
So I see
and
this panel as this, as if I am supposed to talk about biology, Harpreet madam about psychology, and Pralhad sir about the
social and
professional and social aspects of it.
absolutely, absolutely. And I was just coming there. What can organizations do to build resilience, organizational resilience? What can leaders do? And your perspectives on this, how to build this resilience in organizations.
Sir, you are
You're
on
on
mute.
mute. Yeah.
And, is it okay now? Yeah,
Yes.
I was put on mute. Anyway, I think this is going to be a bit longer than usual commentary, so please bear with me. So I want to draw on the earlier panelists, Harpreet's thought about positive thinking and what we called as opportunistic centric thinking, or people also use the word growth mindset. The what I found in organizations which continue to grow and do well and do extraordinarily well in business is that when they move from cost centric thinking to this opportunity centric thinking. And several industries in the country, I'm specifically now referring to India, have been traditionally cost centric thinking companies. So where you optimize cost, everything is looked in a very deeper lens. But more recently, I have come across individuals and professionals who look at costs more to be managed. And cost is not the kind of real driver, but it is a way that you can use it as a lever, but opportunity is the driver. Okay, so my first point to everybody, including whether you're looking at careers or whatever it is that in business or at a personal and leadership level, can you flip it to looking at opportunities and all other known manageable points as more as constraints to be managed. But the main thought is about opportunity thinking. And if I were to take about some of the more successful Indian businesses, their ability to have seen opportunity has made them grow leaps and bounds, and they have done some fantastic work and what they have achieved. And then now I will move to the next point, which is the traditional kind of management thinking, which is that it comes from the leadership style, which says that I know, you do. Okay, so it is that I have all the knowledge. So before you enter any subject, the boss just reads the topic of the subject and then says he has a strategic perspective. He's always right, and he says that I have understood all the problem. You might come up with any recommendation, but this is what you need to do. Okay, so this has been the dominant way organizations have learned, worked, and done a lot of their past experience. I did have an opportunity to chat with one of the senior leaders very recently, and his view was that he was like that, a few years back. Okay, so this is not just what we think, but we also know people are actually behaving that way. When I say leaders, people who are CEOs, etc., like that. And he's saying that I learned and I realized after so many years of working that actually the real problem on hand is not to tell you what to do, but actually people who come to me, are they capable of saying what need to be done? So is my leadership style getting to a level, a type that it's not about I continuously saying to myself that I know to solve problems, but am I creating teams? Am I creating people around me who are actually able to get to answering problems, creating solutions to problems? So he has flipped his paradigm. And the he says the one of the big learnings that he has had, which is the learnable trait, is that can I hold back myself, listen to people, then kind of giving this gyan of myself, at the first 5 minutes of the meeting. Can I step back and then kind of listen to everything that is happening around me? And in some way, Sanjay also had mentioned this AI and uncertainty and things like that. And then I want to move to this aspect of AI in business, because that's something that I'm dealing with right now. One of the things that we have realized is that most of the systems and wherever either human intelligence or whatever AI, which is artificial intelligence, has been used is it's always in one specific area, one specific problem. Okay. And organizations or people, or I would almost go to the extent of saying humans, who have more looked at end to end thinking, which is that, what is it beginning with and what is it that it is kind of getting to, realize there. And if you are able to prioritize which part of that do I want to make it more mechanical, which do I want it to remain fluid, okay, so that it is absorbing and learning and things like that. And even to do that, you need to have a data oriented thinking. So organizations just intuitively would jump on systems issues and everybody would contribute, but they would never solve the larger problem that they are getting into. So in that, I would go to the extent of saying, go with end to end thinking. We were earlier a silo based thinking, individual organizations. Are you able to think through which silo is contributing to which end-to-end thinking. And therefore, if you solve either the silo or which part of the end-to-end thinking, will you be able to comprehensively think through the solution? So, and this is a thought that we are kind of living by every day, and that to make any recommendation has to be data oriented. It cannot be intuitive. There is intuition in human mind, obviously, to work on to get to deeper, but we need to have enough data to kind of think through this. So that was, in a way, my third point. The last one being, ability to change or managing change. So one is the change. Again, if you go back to the 3 points that I made earlier, which is about how are organizations looking at managing change. And of course, systems are changing, newer ideas are changing, but do I build in myself an opportunist thinking to say that this is how I will do change? And one of the ways that organizations bring in this thought is through rotation of people, newer talent. So, it is through new thinking, new humans that, we get to new perspectives about change and, how to effectively get to the changing, which is in the mid part, which is also about execution of change. And as when it comes to either leadership or employees, I would urge that, and it kind of links to some of the earlier commentary by Dr. Dhruv and Dr. Harpreet also, which is humankind has shown that when it is at the point of struggle, the best innovations happen. Okay, so if you look at when the struggle is going on, this is a struggle at a real time. I know this you can flip it around to say that this is the point of inflection that innovation is happening. It is happening at organizational level. It is happening at individual level also. Are you able to innovate? Are you able to recreate yourself? That it's a learnable trait, and that change will definitely get you to be more innovative and more of value to everybody who is around you. Since a lot of earlier talked about connectedness and what we need to talk, and those coping mechanisms have already been mentioned, I don't want to spend time on that, but I do want to spend on only one specific element of that. A few people that I know have now made it a point to realize in which aspect of life is negativity creeping into them, and they have actively pursued, like Dr. Dhruv was saying, are you pursuing actively to finding out the best positive effort? They are also doing the same, actively finding to where the energy is getting sapped and cutting it off. Meaning it's like a very disciplined approach to bringing to your mind, I don't want these aspects to enter my space of mind, and very, very specifically dealing with it. So I found that this type of thing makes a difference. And the only other smaller, not at this level of articulation, is journaling. I found journaling to be something that has helped people and also helped me sometimes when I write down, because my thoughts become so much more clearer. So to me, this is the wide array of things that we can put, and the more the dialoguing we do today, we might be able to come to some other points and more interesting debates on this topic.
Unmute. Okay, so that was such a comprehensive answer to that, to rather that broad question itself. And you have covered everything. What I took away was learning at all levels, that your leaders have to listen to the employees who bring in perspectives. Organizations need to work across silos. In change, adaptability, adapting to change is the way to go. And also, the challenges lead to opportunities. So we need to take into consideration all this. In fact, a lot of whatever you said brings in a lot of new concepts and thoughts in ways in which organizations need to handle the uncertainty and how it's affecting employees today, whether it's social connection, learning, adaptability. So one of the common themes I think that has come through is the adaptability and the learning, which is very, very important. Now, as a final thought, Dr. Harpreet, from you, what are things that people can do? Journaling was one thing that Prahlad mentioned. I think there is a comment here from Sanjay, who has said that we have spoken about managing change. Um, if you look at a pyramid, top one third will anyway do this. They will be able to benefit. The base is where the challenge is. Individuals who are unable to cope with this. This should be a community which may be large in nose and also can become explosive. How do we address this as a society will become more critical in the times ahead. Indeed, this is a thought that, maybe one of our panelists, Dr. Dhruv, can answer later on. Uh, Before that, Dr. Harpreet, your final advice to people on what to do.
See, like we have already discussed so far that there are different ways that we can use, and human beings are, capable of adapting themselves to the change. But besides that, just now, like the question that you just one of the audience has asked, the individuals are very important, and there are some people who are unable to manage because of many reasons. It could be, well, let's not go into that. So there could be ways which they can adopt. Journaling is definitely one, because gratitude journaling shifts the mind of the person totally from what I have, from what I don't have to what I have, So that itself is a big shift which, helps people. Then there are other things. If you want to use absolutely immediately something that will help a person, it's called the grounding technique. I think most of us are familiar with that grounding technique, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things that you see around you, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things, that kind of a technique that helps immediately to shift the person's focus of attention from anything else to the sensory organs, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're tasting, what you can touch, what you can, those kind of things. That's one that is for immediate at that moment. But on a long term basis, things like meditation help a lot, mindfulness helps a lot, all these techniques. But also, one thing, even simple things like going for a walk can be helpful to people, because I think Dr. Dhruv will be able to explain it much better, because exercising is a very, very effective way of, releasing what we refer to as the happy hormones, and the person's mood can shift. Then we also have things like looking after yourself through nutrition, through proper sleep. All these aspects are very important for a person to develop a resilient frame of mind. Because if you're not, haven't slept well, haven't eaten well, you're not very likely to be able to adapt to changes very easily. So it's important that you take care of yourself to be able to develop techniques of resilience. On an empty stomach, resilience doesn't come easy. On half of a person who's sleep deprived, resilience doesn't come easy. So all these aspects are very, very important. So these are small things. If we take care of them, I think it can help the person go a long way. That's my take on it. And besides that, of course, each person has their own ways of dealing. What helps me may not help you. So each person has to find their own ways, try out different ways, what works for me, and hold on to that. That is important. So that's how I feel.
Absolutely. Dr.
Dr.
Harpreet,
Dhruv,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much
Dr.
for,
Dhruv can
yes,
extend
Dr.
further on this.
Absolutely. So you mentioned these techniques of self-care, which are so important if people are facing that stress and anxiety. The grounding technique, especially if somebody is feeling very anxious in the moment, those techniques help. Of course, we do have counseling and other services. If people are unable to
Definitely.
cope with anxiety, then they can go for counseling and other
Professional help, right?
professional help, or talk to a friend, or whatever, to whatever degree they need that help. And self-care is absolutely important. So
And
doctor, yeah, go ahead.
just wanted to add, I think you brought that out very well. I think relationships, nothing can beat relationships. A good
Ab-
family relationship, a good friend circle is a huge, big support system, which helps to a great extent. The only important thing is what has already been mentioned. make sure that the people around you are also not venting like you are, then you are in trouble, because then it gets further reinforced.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, this is interesting, Dr. Harpreet. One is, making those positive connections, but where people are venting out, it could be like a support group where people who are
Right, right. As a
undergoing very
negative
similar
support group.
issues, they can get into a support group where they can talk without the fear of being judged. Maybe Dr. Dhruv,
Yes.
if you can, couple of minutes. I know we started like 10 minutes late, so we are taking the liberty of extending, and this discussion is so engrossing that I'm sure our participants will listen for a few more minutes, and maybe about 10, 15 minutes more. Please ask your questions, all the audience. Please ask your questions in the chat. Anand Swarup has said conversations with people instead of gluing to mobile can bring more groundedness, happiness. Absolutely, Anand, you are perfectly right there. The meaningful social connections is what we need to really make sure that we are surrounded with. Yes, Dr. Dhruv, your take on this?
So, taking the discussion forward from Harpreet ji, that if we are right now, as we are talking about a blanket solution, not a very tailor-made one. So, as we discussed initially, that the problems can be biopsychosocial and the solutions can also be biopsychosocial. So, we have to be cognizant of the different areas of our life. Let's start with biological. So first, we have to take care of our biological self. First, what we do is we take care of diet, exercise, and sleep. Okay, physical health and mental health are not two separate things. Brain is a very much a part of our body, right? So good physical health will definitely help good mental health. So that is first part of it. Second, checkup. So regular blood tests, regular physician checkups are necessary. If somebody has a thyroid problem, vitamin deficiency, anemia, chronic inflammation, no matter how connected they are socially, if their brain is in inflammation, they will not have those happy hormones. They will not feel good. They will not feel pleasure of the good activities that they are doing, right? So regular supplements, regular medicines, if you are prescribed, it is unmissable, right? You cannot miss it. It is non-negotiable. And restfulness and meditation, not just sleep. Okay, so if you know breathing techniques, exercise, meditation, these all of these things have their own different benefits, and none can replace the other. Physical exercise, meditation, sleep, all three things are have different values, right? So that is the whole biological part. Take care of your body. Second is psychological. So in psychology, we have to look at our thoughts. So as we do in therapy, won't go deeper into it, but our personality has a major chunk of what automatic thoughts we have. So our mindsets, like Prahlad sir mentioned, growth mindset and all that. So in today's context, growth mindset, different kinds of mindset. Are we generally optimistic or not? Are we getting healthier thoughts or not? Are we getting healthier emotions or not? So going into therapy and understanding how our mind is functioning is the psychological part, which is developing resilience through techniques, through active coping, and not just passive coping, right? That is the psychological part. And social part, as we already discussed, connectedness and so on. So that is one lens to look at it, biopsychosocial. The other lens to look at it is if we divide our life into different domains: physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, financial health, professional health, uh, the domain expertise, right? So if we divided it, and then if we see if there is an imbalance, if we are putting more efforts, energy into one part of our life and not the other part, that imbalance can also cause stress, right? So we do that values assessment and see if the life is in balance. And third part is the different roles we play. If I talk about myself, I'm a doctor, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend, right? All of these roles we play. So if we divide our life into such various domains and look at each of one of them, and if we find that, oh, if the stress is coming from one side or the solution can come from one side, taking this up like this categorically helps a lot. And as one thing that Prahlad sir mentioned, which is very very important, is that we are only looking at what is helping us, but if we also look at what is hurting us and cut that cord,
Hmm.
right, where the energy leak is happening, when the stress leak is happening, if we just block that leak, right? So not just chargers are useful, we also have to look at the drainers and leakers, and we have to stop them. and that is how I think we all grow. But overall, the mindset where our eyes constantly looking at what how our life can be better in general as well, and how our emotional health is a priority, and that overall mindset I think will be really useful.
Thank you, Dr. Dhruv. Again, very precise suggestions for everybody that how to take care of our physical health. First of all, without that, we cannot be healthy in general. And then the psychological, emotional health, which has a lot of different techniques. And like we say, if you are overwhelmed at any time, go and see a professional. And of course, our friend circles, our first point of contact is our friend circles, who can be a big support system. A very brief question, Prahlad, for you is, how do you make those connections in the workplace?
Yeah.
So this is something that, our workplace friendships and workplace support systems. So Surya is saying, avoid the energy vampires and stick to energy chargers. Yes, lovely tip indeed. Yes, Surya. So how do you do these connections in the workplace?
Yeah. So, Swati, one point that I try to see and do is that professionally and otherwise, we are always consumed either by our own priorities or that we want to accomplish this goal in business, etc. Right? But now, not now, for some time that I've been doing this is I make it a point to kind of meet people, at their desks, just go around, what they call as management by walking around. It's not that management, very rarely is that I have to get something in management from people around me. It is just human walking around. Okay. So, please, in spite of you having whatever priorities, make it a point as a top agenda to be with people with just the frame of mind to be another human where they can build relationship with. Okay. And this is, in a way, I would say, an investment for your mental well being. It has got nothing to do with your investment that you are doing to further your career or investment that you are doing to make better money. It is when you have a good frame of mind which is balanced and you are with another person, you don't know how much you are helping the other person. And it is also not with a paradigm to say that no, no, I am very balanced and I have everything and I am giving it to. It's not that. It is just that be grounded at that instance, but spend time to establish these real connections. And I have found that, just yesterday it happened that, a very old friend of mine just calls me up in the afternoon and said that I want to meet you. And I said, okay, no, I did have some time. I knew I could do something else, but spend an hour with him. Okay. So it's just that, this is an investment I think we owe to our friends. Okay. At whatever point of time they have helped us to be what we are today. So in a way that you are in the same frame of mind to give it to them. Okay. So I suggest request people to actively prioritize this. Okay, different people are going to through different issues, but I think we at least can do this much, if not anything else. And I'm not talking about any great psychological or philosophical insights, nothing of that kind, because I'm just an ordinary professional. Okay, but just spending the time I think makes a difference to everybody's life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Prahlad, it's so important this, management by walking. I mean, in leadership literature, this is explained so much, like how the culture can be built and these connections in the workplace. In fact, a lot of employee engagement, OD interventions are around making these connections. So an entire chapter on OD is all about this. So I think companies do have the responsibility to make sure that their employees are in that psychologically safe environments, and organizational well-being is absolutely crucial, especially in the current times. And I think Jagdeep says that each person has a risk appetite tolerance. So can it be increased? So there is a question here, number one. And Dhruv, non-outcome based conversations, yes, absolutely, that Prahlad was talking about. And Sanjay says that rise of work from home has advantages, but we have lost the benefits of human connections, leaning and sharing, not necessarily about work, but on diverse topics. Absolutely, that, and this is where I think the hybrid work research has shown that hybrid work is the most beneficial for employees as well as organizations, where you still have those connections in the workplace, but you're not, the other stressors around going to work, traveling, all those come down. So overall, when you talk of work-life balance and quality of work life and all these things, the hybrid has shown, research has shown that that is the best option. Jagdeep has said that um, yeah, can tolerance of ambiguity be increased? So, Dr. Dhruv, Dr. Harpreet, anyone, if you could answer that.
Yes, so short answer, yes, it can be increased, and every trait and every quality is a mixture of nature and nurture. So genetically, we have a range, but the nurture, the learnables, the more we learn, we go on uh, the better side of the spectrum of the range that we genetically carry. So yes, everything, almost everything is a learnable skill, and the short answer is yes.
Okay,
Yes,
yes, go ahead,
yeah,
Harpreet.
I would also like to add a little bit. Yes, it is definitely learnable. Skill can be learned, and you can increase it by increasing your amount of exposure to each, uncertain event, and see how well you are managing. Give if nobody else tells you wonderful, give yourself a pat, and realize that you have that ability to increase, withstand more and more of that uncertainty. And definitely it can be increased. And it requires consistent work, but it can be done.
Absolutely, Dr. Harpreet. So important that we have that sense of self-efficacy. That means my belief in that I can do something, my belief in my own capabilities, and this increasing the self-efficacy is important to deal with uncertainty, to deal with ambiguity, to deal with stress. It is a very important skill that can be built. So just for the panelists, the audience here, we through our institute run a 7-week mental well-being challenge. If you're in organizations, you want us to come and do this challenge for your organizations, we can just do it for you. Just like that. Okay. No fees or anything. We keep running this challenge. It's voluntary. People can sign up. So we are running one now, it's ending. So that's where you actually learn. But the very important part of that challenge is to actually do the activities and write the reflective journal. The challenge itself is very simple. They are simple everyday activities, but it is a challenge because most people do not do the activity, or if they do the activity, they are not journaling. So because thinking on our thoughts is a way to grow, and that requires time. It requires, just like physical exercise, mentally, if you want to build your resilience and strength, you have to work on it. So this it will help in well-being also. So just as a passing, I wanted to tell you about it. Connect with us if you want to know more. Meghna, you can drop your number here for our audience to connect with us afterwards. Here, Gadi Navya Shri has written a comment here saying, one thing I have learned in process of balancing my work life, we often tend to build friendship or a bond with someone who agrees the most with us when something happens, which we didn't expect to be. But establishing the bond with someone who agrees and also listens to us while understanding and letting us see the other possible direction for the same situation can make us, just a second, I lost that. Uh, there are some, um, yeah. And letting us see the other possible direction for the same situation can make us think better and help us to think the solution oriented rather than problem oriented. And this will support us to maintain our work balance and handle our stressors. Absolutely, Navya. I'm just calling you Navya because it says Gadi Navya Shri. So I do not know your first name. I apologize for that. But yes, you are on the right track. We do need to seek perspectives from people. Just don't go with the people who are always agreeing with you. You do need people's perspectives so that you can build your own your own hypothesis, you can check yourself. So yes, people who go with you, who support you is one thing, but do take perspectives from other people. So I think, in the interest of time, I think we can close this panel discussion. If there is some other question that is going to come in, would love to. Okay, Suruchita Sharma. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. I want to thank the panelists for being here. Without them volunteering their time for these kind of dialogues, it's not possible for us to do any panel discussion or webinars, seminars, those Insta lives, or all those things that we do. I want to thank our interns, Tanishka, Mitali, Amruta, and of course Meghna for all your support. I want to thank my associate Samruddhi Patil for being a part of this. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of planning and coordinating that goes on. So thank you everybody for being here, and all of you for spending your Sunday afternoon with us, listening to us. Please be connected on Facebook and Insta. I mean, I'm telling you to be connected with us on social media, but we also need to disconnect from all those reels from some time. To deal with uncertainty, one of the things that we need to learn as a behavior, and I need to tell this to myself also, is to take a break from social media for some time, especially those reels which are causing brain fog, and I don't know, so all these things which we constantly are looking at reels, spending so much of time doing completely useless things. So I think taking a break from this reels and all that is very important, especially those which are not meaningful to you. But social media makes us connected. All this is possible because of social media, the way we are connected over here. So there are pros and cons. Let's look at the positive side of uncertainty, opportunities that it throws up. And thank you everybody for being here. I do not want to take more of your Sunday afternoon. So have a lovely evening, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.